Joining us now is Democratic Senator Chris Coons of Delaware. He serves on the Foreign Relations Committee. Senator, thanks for being with us this morning. We do appreciate it. Let's talk about sanctions or lack thereof. There is an agreement right now in the Senate on sanctions. Why not do something now?
Well, Brianna, I was disappointed that after weeks of very hard work by Foreign Relations Committee Chairman Bob Menendez, we weren't able to come to agreement with our Republican colleagues on the very specific details of a preemptive sanctions package. But there's a public statement out by our leadership, both parties in the Senate, making it clear that we strongly support President Biden's forceful public statements that if there is any further Russian invasion of Ukraine, any violation of their sovereignty and territory, we will support promptly imposing very tough sanctions. So, look, when Leader McConnell said on the floor he thinks the president, our president, has all the powers he needs, that sort of took the air out of our efforts to reach a bipartisan, proactive solution with legislation. There's a dozen of us leaving today on a bipartisan trip to Europe to meet with some of our closest NATO allies. I think there is strong bipartisan support for tough sanctions in the face of likely Russian aggression in the coming days or weeks.
We just had retired Lieutenant Colonel Alex Vindman on, and he was saying that he actually thinks now is the time to have graduated sanctions. And part of the reason is what we're seeing just here in the last hours, which is probing of eastern Ukraine. We had the Ukrainian ambassador on saying that's Russia doing that. So, I mean, doesn't that kind of make the case for sanctions that you're talking about?
Yes. Yes, it does. I think we should have passed bipartisan legislation that had both proactive sanctions to punish Russia for what it's already done to Ukraine and provide proactive authority for very tough sanctions on Nord Stream, on the provision of technological materials, advanced materials into Russia, things like semiconductor chips, and proactively authorize sanctions on the banking system. I do also think it's true that President Biden has the authority to impose those sanctions immediately if there's a Russian further invasion of Ukraine. And then when we return from a week of recess where many of us are traveling around the world or going to our home states, we'll promptly enact the authorizing legislation.
But if that's really the case, I mean, why were Democrats and Republicans showing a united front here in the last month about moving forward and acting if in the end you're saying, oh, you know, we don't even actually have to do this?
Well, Brianna, I cannot tell you how frustrated I was that after days and days and days of negotiating, ultimately we could not get Republicans and Democrats to agree. That wasn't for a lack of trying, and it wasn't for a lack of willing to be reasonable and accommodating and to make compromises. The public statement that is out that has the chairs and rankings of all the relevant senior committees here in the Senate and our leadership makes it clear that we support President Biden's effort to reinforce the eastern flank of NATO. We've sent 5,000 American troops to several countries on the front lines to stand strong with Ukraine and its territorial integrity and independence, and to stand ready to impose crippling sanctions on Russia.
The Republican alternative is put sanctions in now. What are you worried about? What do you worry will happen if that is the plan, if that is something that you would move forward with?
Brianna, there were just slight differences over how much of the Nord Stream related sanctions to do immediately versus giving our ally Germany a number of days or weeks for them to impose sanctions on this pipeline project. Having met with the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, as did a number of other senior leaders here in the Senate when he was here, I was convinced, as were many of my colleagues, it's best to let our close ally and partner Germany take the steps they've said they would take. And then if for some reason they don't, due to internal politics, make it clear that we would. When President Biden met with Chancellor Scholz, President Biden said, if Russia further invades Ukraine, that pipeline is over. It will be ended one way or the other. So forgive me, Brianna, what really matters here is that there is public unity in the face of Russian aggression, not the ins and outs of whether we could get 3 sentences this way or that way on legislation.
Okay, and just I want to ask you just very quickly because I am out of time here. But what is I mean, what is a public statement? What is a resolution? What does that really do? It shows solidarity by the Senate and its leadership that we will oppose Russian aggression against Ukraine. All right, Senator, thank you so much, Senator Chris Coons. We appreciate you being with us.
Thank you.